For 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And when I say only, trust me, they're the only one. Founder Glenn Story and his team have been great supporters of this show, which is why I am proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you the ability to access all three major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding the left. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you're sending the message that you support free speech, religious freedom, the sanctity of life, Second Amendment, and our military veterans and first responders. Their 100% US-based customer service team makes switching easy. So easy, I did it. I kept my number, you can keep your phone, or you can upgrade. Their team will help you find the best plan for your needs. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation when you use the offer code JASON. Join me, make the switch today, patriotmobile.com/Jason. That's patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 972-PATRIOT. Welcome. As promised, I have a great topic for Delano and I to discuss. It's playing off of yesterday's conversation where I told you all at the end of it, I wanted to follow up with Delano. We talked quite a bit about Joe Biden and his speech at Morehouse, and then I transitioned into a question that I wanted to ask Delano, that as a parent or as a young Black man or woman, do you think you would be better served at a HBCU that will promote and affirm all of the alphabet mafia, LGBTQIA plus, silent P agenda, or would you be better served going to a predominantly white university, particularly one that has a religious bent to it, like Benedictine College, where Harrison Butker, the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, spoke? Delano, if faced with that choice, HBCU or PWI, what's the better choice for a young Black person?
That's a good question, Jason. I think, and obviously we're presupposing that this is a young Black person who has a certain set of Christian, biblical, or some may say conservative views, right? So if that's the case,
no.
Okay.
Because it's just anybody Black. I don't care whether they are, and this you're talking to someone who is currently paying for his niece to attend Hampton University. That's her choice. I'm just supporting her choice. I'm not paying for all of it, but I'm paying for quite a bit of it. And so, but again, this has nothing to do with just a Black kid. Better off at a HBCU or a PWI?
Okay, now you made the question a little bit more difficult. I think it depends on the institution itself, right? There are PWIs that promote values that are just as, out there and degenerate as what we, have talked about with some HBCUs. And then there's some HBCUs that are more, for lack of a better term, sort of traditional, culturally speaking, than some PWIs. I think it depends on the institution itself. I mean, that being said, I see a lot of value in HBCUs. That a lot of that is sort of historical value. I'm afraid that much like the Black church, many of them are losing their way in terms of what it is that they promote, both in the classroom and as institutions in terms of their public values. But so for me, if all things were being equal, in this day and age, and you're talking about a student who could get into either university, honestly, the way things are going, I might lean towards the HBCU, and I think that may surprise some people. But depending on the institution, like you mentioned Hampton University, I have a lot of respect for Hampton as an institution. I'm sure it has faults just like any other school. But I think there is some value to Black students continuing to go to HBCUs. And really what I would like to see is the people who complain when affirmative action was struck down, last summer, instead of always saying, oh, well, all the athletes should leave University of Florida and Alabama and Georgia and go to HBCUs for athletic purposes, I would like them to start making the argument that, hey, maybe some of the top tier talent intellectually in terms of student achievement should consider going to some of these historical universities instead of begging PWIs to lower their standards in order to get in.
So, as a young person growing up, if you had asked me this at 19 through 30 years old, I would have said, no question, HBCU. I would point to the statistics of how much more likely you were to graduate rather than drop out. And I would, because one of the things, and I really loved my time at Ball State University. What I did not love was all the conversation about, well, white people did this or white people did that, blah, blah. And so, like, you go to an HBCU and you can just focus on your education. And you don't have to have this distracting conversation about a white person called me a name. Because, again, when Black people call us names, we don't say, well, a Black person, we just say, right, Jimmy called me a name, or whatever, or Lamont called me a name. So back then I would have argued the complete opposite, but now I would argue, and you're right, I would never, if I had a relative that went to an Ivy League school, I would never support it, couldn't get a dime out of me, because I think these Ivy League schools are wicked, destructive places. But what I have argued to family members, and what I would be far more enthusiastic supporting, oh, you go to one of these religious universities, I'll empty my bank account, making sure you graduate and have a good time. And many of those are predominantly white, and I'm not as enthusiastic. Having had friends of mine's kids go to HBCUs, and then just having relatives. I got a nephew that's going to an HBCU as well. But having seen what's transpiring on these campuses and just how over the top and how much control the alphabet crew has over the HBCUs, when I cut these checks come August, I always do it with, like, I love my niece Madison, and I certainly love her mama, and so I just do it with a tinge of regret and just hope everything comes out well on the other side. But that's, I don't know, man.
So I mean,
it's rough.
I think you raise a number of good points, and again, a lot of it depends on the institution, right? So, as somebody, I went to the University of Pittsburgh undergrad. Outside of the state schools in New York, I only consider schools who have big sports programs because that was my introduction to college. I didn't grow up with people who went to four-year university, so it was Pitt, Penn State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. The schools that I watched on Saturday afternoon play basketball or play football. I didn't know what a liberal arts college was. And then I wanted schools. I wanted to go to University of Maryland because they had prettier girls than Pittsburgh. Sorry, no disrespect to Steel City. But now, if the choice was between Howard University and Hillsdale College, that's an easy choice, because the kids that I've met from Hillsdale are some of the most impressive students who have sort of a more mature worldview, who understand first principles, who don't hate their country, and there's something about that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And in fact, I would prefer, if my children was choosing between Hillsdale and Harvard, I would prefer to send them to Hillsdale. But again, that being said, I do think that HBCUs have a lot of value. And again, we're talking about 108 universities, right, across the South. different cultures of different sizes. You have public land grant universities. You have private institutions like, Morehouse and Spelman. So there's not just one HBCU. There's a number of them. But again, the type of work, and I'm most familiar with Hampton, the type of work that Hampton is doing in terms of trying to promote the Black family is work that I think has tremendous value. And that's probably not something that's going to take place at a PWI, at a similarly sort of a peer PWI. And when I was there talking to the students there, and I was asking them, okay, how would you all define family? And they were all giving me sort of like a husband, wife, and their children. I said, oh, thank you, Lord. So maybe there's one place, in HBCU world that hasn't been completely corrupted. But I think there's value there. It's just a matter of having the right people in leadership and cultivating a culture that leads to human flourishing. And I agree with you that many of those schools do not do that at this point.
So let me be totally transparent and say that, early in my career, let's say the first 15 years of my career from 1990 until probably 2005, 2008, virtually any college would bring me on to speak. And probably 2007 may have been the breaking point, but 2007, 2000, well, no, because it was even, definitely through 2008. Any college, I spoke at Harvard, I spoke at any college. So since about 2008, I don't think the only college that I think, not only, but one of the few colleges that has ever asked me to speak since 2008 is Hampton University. And I just couldn't make my schedule work. And that's why I feel better about my niece going to Hampton than any place else. And when I say speak, I'm talking about predominantly white schools, Black schools. Again, I've spoke at Morehouse years ago. Even, I think I went back to Morehouse in 2007, when I was involved in that Don Imus controversy, and they had me on a panel discussion. That may have been the breaking point, because I was there with Spike Lee and Jim Brown and a bunch of other people. But it's been like, I'm persona non grata, even at my own university, Ball State University, and I've given a lot of money and support to Ball State University, but they don't want me anywhere near their kids. And again, I can't think of what it is I've done wrong, other than I do like point out, hey, the alphabet crew, not my cup of tea. And so they've said, hey, you're not our cup of tea either. Don't come to our college campus.
I mean, that's part of what it takes to play ball. And I think it's not only that, but obviously you threaten the idols that many of these institutions have made out of race. So when you talk about Don Imus, when you talk about the Gina Six, when you talk about the Duke lacrosse case, you talk about Michael Brown, these are all things that these universities don't want to hear. Now, the good thing, at least back then, there still was a critical mass of people who were willing to hear opinions that they didn't agree with, right? But now it's to the point where you can't even get on a campus unless you, check every box, and unless you, give a pinch of incense to the gods of the age, and which is why so many people freaked out about Harris and Butker basically saying, hey, marriage and family are important. Vocations of husband and father, wife and mother are important. And now people, want to create petitions to get them fired and kicked out of the NFL. So I think it's just a different intellectual landscape. I do not think that serves young people. Because if you're the type of person, particularly if you're the type of person who's going to fill positions of influence or power or prestige in journalism and academia, in the criminal justice system, in politics, and you turn into, a pillar of salt when someone says something that you don't like, to me, that's not good for the country. It's not good for young people. And I hope that we're able to reverse course and stop going down this particular path.
D, thank you so much.
Thank you,
great
Jason.
job as always. I hope you're taking some Cardio Miracle like myself. You could look as good as me, Delano, if you did. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Go to cardiomiracle.com/fearless. Improve your circulation, your health, everything going on with nitric oxide. We'll see you next time. Help us grow the Fearless Army. Pound that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with all your fearless friends.